So up until this point, I think it's been safe to say that the Western world was trying to help Ukraine defend itself from a Russian invasion, but we may have just crossed the line into the territory which now makes this a proxy war against Russia. In other words, NATO is going to fight to the last Ukrainian in an attempt to try to weaken Russia's military. The question is this the right move? Should this be the number one priority of our Western governments right now? Because as I speak to you, as I record this video, in the United States in particular, we have families that cannot afford to fill up the gas tanks in their cars. They cannot find baby formula on the shelves. Credit card debt is at a record high, and the economy seems to be crumbling around us. But we are funneling more and more and more money into this war, which has an extremely dangerous likelihood of perhaps going into the direction of World War III, but we're doing this anyway. So what the hell is going on here? But that really is the bottom line. Just look at this headline. The US wants to see a weakened Russia. And it was Lloyd Austin, the current Secretary of Defense, who said that they wanted to see Russia weakened to the degree that it can't do the kinds of things that it has done in invading Ukraine. So this situation really has now shifted. This is no longer about trying to defend Ukraine in the face of Russian aggression, which you can make the case was legitimate. This is now about taking the fight to Russia itself. That is something that is very different and perhaps something that could be very dangerous when you consider what has been happening in Russia over the past couple of weeks. For example, we've had Russia's Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, perhaps the second most powerful person in the country. Do not underestimate the threat of nuclear war. And on Russian state TV, we've seen simulations of nuclear strikes on Europe. So the Russian Kremlin-backed TV stations have been showing what it would be like to enter into a nuclear war with Europe and saying that there would be no survivors and that Russia would be capable of obliterating, at the very least, London, Berlin, and Paris in a matter of minutes. Now, this is a point here on this channel that I have been harping on for months at this point. World War III is a very real threat in this situation. It is the most dangerous foreign policy situation that I have seen in my lifetime. And despite all of these warnings from within Russia, from outside of Russia, from even Western commentators, some Western politicians, that this could lead to nuclear war, this could be the spark for World War III, we have seen things like this. Russian provinces bordering Ukraine report a series of blasts. Russian authorities said explosions hit 3 border provinces, including an ammunition depot in the Belgorod province. Now, how is Putin going to react to this after seeing literally billions of dollars worth of Western weapons being funneled into Ukraine? Again, you could make the argument that, okay, that's legitimate, they did invade, maybe to eject the invaders, okay, all well and good. Bringing the fight into Russia, this is a significant step up, but it probably is to be expected. It appears that those billions of dollars in weapons have provided a sense of perhaps overconfidence to Ukrainian elites that they might actually be able to win a protracted war with Russia, which, despite all of the problems that the Russian military is clearly having, I would be very skeptical of that conclusion. But Ukraine's foreign minister did say this the other day. The end of the story for Ukraine is, of course, the liberation of occupied territories and payments by Russia for everything, for all the damage that has been inflicted on us. Now, there has been one major Western leader, who I'm certainly no fan of, who has actually said some useful things on this topic, and that is France's recently re-elected President Macron. He has said that trying to humiliate Russia over this war in Ukraine is probably a very bad idea. And he has said, we will have a peace to build tomorrow. Let us never forget that. I mentioned this earlier. We will have to do this with Ukraine and Russia around the table. The end of the discussion and the negotiation will be set by Ukraine and Russia. But it will not be done in denial, nor in exclusion of each other, nor even in humiliation. So gold is kind of where you find it when it comes to Western mainstream politicians, particularly the presidents of NATO countries. But this absolutely is a golden nugget in a sea of propaganda and devastation that propaganda is causing. Peace should be the goal of this situation. Yes, I get Ukraine wants retribution, wants revenge, wants to enact some vengeance on Russia. I probably would if it was my country that had just been invaded. But you have to look at the bigger picture here. This is not just about Ukraine. This, unfortunately, as I've mentioned, is about the potential to spark World War III. And I think there's just one headline here which really sums up why continuing this conflict is not the right thing to do. Image appears to show bodies of Russian soldiers arranged in letter Z after Ukraine recaptures village. This is the sort of spiral of devastation and revenge that war creates. This is why continuing to funnel billions of dollars of weapons into this situation is not going to help. This has to be a move towards peace, not a continuation of this conflict. Thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. Please subscribe if you are new to the channel. I'm working my way up to 3,000 subs. Would love to have you here as a regular viewer. Be sure to follow me at the other social media links in the description, and I'll be back with more videos on Ukraine and some other topics which are also somewhat related to this in the next few days.